Hello, loves. It's a Tuesday, and I'm on twitch.com/cat ears. Is that annoying enough yet? Hi. We have different things today. I know. If you're in the Discord, you may have seen my reworked schedule. It is constantly a work in progress, but we'll see how it goes. I have a lot going on this month. So to start with, should I give people an update on how things are going with the KTC choosing our summer girl poll options?
Give them an update on your cat.
On my cat? She's small, but not as small. Orange, and according to my wife, she is a brat.
Is surgery coming up?
Oh, and she might have a surgery coming up if she's not fixed. We don't know for sure if she's fixed or not. However, she has not gone into heat yet. So let's look at that. How often do cats go into heat? Heat is very big. 2 to 3 months between heat. But then, God help you, it's up to fucking 2 weeks of going crazy. If not 5. Wow. Induced ovulators. There's something we need to learn as a species, because we can choose that, right? You don't actually release an egg unless you have a chance of fertilizing the egg. Would that fix period? Less pain. No one likes those. Blood and ouch blood. Yeah. So, no idea if we'd know by now. But so far, no weird signs of heat. She's just a little brat, going all over the house, chewing on catnip-laced Dino Nuggy plushies, and sitting in the window listening to the children play baseball a lot, or the vehicles driving by, or whatever. She's pretty chill usually, unless it's bedtime, and then she will lay between your feet and chew on your feet. And if you're petting your other cat, like, say, I was Merlin the other night, she might, every time you close your eyes, go from like, and then next thing you know, all over on Merlin's tail. And I know Merlin likes her because she's still alive. He mostly just, like, complained slightly, and then she kept doing it, so he left. So he is becoming cranky father uncle. I'm so proud. Father uncle brother. Listen, this is the Willamette Valley rural area of Oregon. Some people just have father uncle brothers.
Oh my god.
We try to accept them as they are. And
you nasty bitch.
Family dynamics can be a little weird. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So that's the update on the cat. Let's see how the since we're not actually like in starting soon anymore, let's go normal cave. Wow. I really need to figure out transitions. I just have not sat to try and do it. I'm sure it's simple. If I wow, mean to me. Having mean to me to the bingo. The hardest part is if you want it to stay animating the lights when you transition, because then you'd like one camera to project to a surface, and then that surface to overlay the other, and then fade out, and fine. The hardest part is figuring out how to get that stupid surface. I guess I could. I'll think about that later. I'm already gears turning. I think I know how to do it. But not our focus right now. Next thing on my agenda, we're going to go into the KTC channel on the Discord here real quick. Let me look. That is $15 a month on Patreon for anyone who's not in there. I was saying you could have a say in things. Let's see who's winning. Let's see. I put Ottercat because some people were like Ottercat, and her highest poll is 3. So, all right. Emmy's got 4. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. The mermaid. The other 2 have 1. Katra has 9. 9. Nidra's got 2. And Lizelle has like 4. So, wow. That's a lot of streams. Enjoy your shells. You can use them to throw tomatoes at me, and hopefully this time I actually see it. Instead of being a dumb bitch who doesn't pay attention, and you should be beaten up. Violently beaten up. On the street. Does that... Viewer attack doesn't have its own audio source? Local file, control audio via OVS. There we go. Okay. I think that was tied to my desktop before, so if you weren't hearing the funny sounds that go with viewer attack, it's because I set it up wrong. Wow.
You're dum-dum.
Well, yeah, we're learning that a lot today. Apparently I left my commissions for Skebs, my main commissions.
Yeah, you so dumb.
Unlisted for over a month. Half of them are taken already. Ooh. Oh, but if I do that, I can't hear the sound? That sucks. Huh. That's a choice. I wonder if there's anything else I can do to that. Okay, let me look. No.
If anybody's interested, Kathy is open for commissions.
Kathy is also open for commissions, yes.
She's currently in dev mode.
Dev mode?
Yeah.
I mean dev mode.
I'm in dev mode. I'm making a new commission type.
Oh!
Because I'm super cool and awesome.
I give a shit. You have multiple people wanting to bite. There's gotta be a way. What's this? Monitoring. There, I should be able to hear them now. I think I found it. We're good. I think I can also hear myself. What's that do? Probably annoy me. Oh well, we'll see what happens. I'll try to notice if it goes off again. Once I can do a test. Can I do a test? Where is it? Where's my extensions? Extensions. Okay, check this out. Okay, we're gonna go into my extensions. We're going to viewer attack. And we're just gonna test one. What kind of test we to throw a rock at me?
Oh, it breaks the screen.
Well, I didn't hear shit. It
makes a hole in the screen.
Yeah, a lot of them do a lot of things. You do a lot of stuff. That's frustrating. So I have to enable my desktop audio for you to hear that? My desktop audio is my music, and that could get me in trouble. You threw a tomato at me. And your name went off screen. I think that was Spritz. That's one thing I don't like. I don't like that the name can go off screen. Mwah. Oh, I heard moi. It's just really quiet. It's just really freaking quiet for me. Okay, so I need to turn my music down. There. That should work. We've solved the puzzle, everyone. We've solved it.
Dumb.
Not dumb, I'm learning.
You're dumb.
Learning takes time. If you can't learn, then you're dumb. But I am learning. I'm not dumb. How did I go to extensions? I want to be in Stream Manager. Oh, I need to see the chat. There we go.
I would throw a kiss your way, but I'm waiting.
You're waiting?
I'm waiting.
You're waiting. What are you waiting for? Me to earn it?
That's to build up. So
You don't have any shells?
I have some shit.
I thought you were my biggest fan.
Oh.
You're the one that spent them on making it so I couldn't run.
Just for that,
No.
I'm spending shells.
On what? No cursing. Fuck you.
Oh, you broke it! What do I get?
Nothing. I haven't started the timer yet.
You stuck!
What is it? 10 minutes? 15? What was it? 10 minutes. And before we start the timer, we have to do the prediction. So changed up my dashboards, like all kinds of fun toys now. Well, I've added collaboration and an ads button that is not my quick actions button. So hopefully I can manage things a little better. It should also make it easier if I turn on auto ads. It gives me a timer and everything. Will I break and swear? You got 1 minute. Start your prediction. Yeah. And I was raised by a very Christian mother, so remember that includes like damn and most iterations of hell. Just not the place. Like if I'm like, oh, go to hell. Like, no, I'm mentioning the place. I'm like, hell yeah, that's a swear. That's how I was raised. Isn't that fun? Isn't that awesome? Cool. And while you all do that, I'm going to try this add button. And then we'll start doing art shit. Yes. Boop. For those of you not receiving ads, the secret word is spaghetti. So, everyone start talking about sketty. Nailing it. Okay. Now we go over here. If it worked right, we got Clip Studio. Nice. All right. The prediction is done. The no cursing will now begin. Spritz needs to calm down. It has not begun yet. He is not in trouble yet. I'm accepting Kazi's thing. Boom. And I am officially starting the timer. We have 10 minutes of no swearing. And
How do I make this thing go away?
what thing?
This thing.
You know, I honestly don't know. I think you click outside it. Nice! Liz keeps throwing her underwear at me. I wonder if Liz voted for me to swear. Be pretty funny. Oh no. Everyone voted for me to swear.
Didn't vote.
Except Malka. Malka believes in me. So
I didn't vote.
you didn't vote. Well, of the people that did vote, it seems to be 1v1. They're 1v1ing. I don't know why Spritz is mad that I swore before the timer started, so he's fine. When he said I would break...
He gets mad when you put ads up.
Well, he can live. He is saying, I will swear, unless he misunderstood the assignment, in which case, goo no read good.
We'll sell the organizing one.
A basic education.
Yeah.
Anyway. Welcome back from ads, everybody. Should we attempt a bingo? I mean, there's not really much going on here. I don't think I have one for doodling. My stream bounty button's not working. Ooh, fun for me. Ooh, broken button. Let's refresh. Ooh. Button work now. Button work now. I have one for dev work. I don't have one for art, so it'll just be general events. I don't think that'd be all that interesting. So, whatever. Viewer checks, though, we did check. It did work. Let's do, what's the most annoying thing I throw at you? I have this disabled. Is Inari in the room? Probably not. Dang. Uh, it's a shame Ina doesn't stream, because if he did, we could all spam this at him. So,
Good.
well, that's the best I got. Sorry. There's lots of fun ones hiding in here. Like I can do this. Fun fact, I put more bits on the ones that take longer. However, the 2000 shell random one will give you bits-based attacks. You don't get to control which. You can get anything. I think you can get global. I'm not sure. I think the booster packs also do that. So remember, if you watch 3 of my streams, I believe it is, you should be able to open a booster pack and just get something. Every 3rd stream or whatever.
Stop it. Leave the groceries alone.
My cat is trying to eat my groceries.
Good boy.
I think he wants the sun chip bag. Not the sun chips, just the bag. Now, I made something. I made a little tool for myself here because Liz had an order, right? So I need to find this. That was easy. This is Liz's order. The emotes she wants. She paid $40 each, and this will probably be my emote commission little sub gallery on VGen when we're done. Give or take any I do for Ottercat, because we could use a few. So there's the list of things Lizzie wants, and for the sake of reference, we're gonna want her little channel mascot. There we go. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go blam. And we're gonna go put like a new one. A new canvas. 1,000 by 1,000 is probably golden for this. Okay. I saved that as emote list, and I thought it said molest when I looked up, so we're doing great today, visually. My eyes are doing awesome. Everything is great. No questions to ask here. Just gotta look at my molest and go from there. There we are. And I can scoot this over probably a fair bit. This is a little cramped, isn't it? A little cramped. There we go. I just need to see it as a reference. Those are our boys. Okay? And this is our boss, who's also one of our boys. Our boys, our girls, our possums, and anything else she may identify as in any given day. I judge. Oh, crap. I just had my tablet decide to take a nap. What a good start. Okay. Yes. That was the wrong button. Damn it. Oh, no!
You do.
I swore. I swore. I swore. I'm gonna add 5 minutes. I was so close. I only had 2 to go. No. All right. Okay, prediction number 2. You only get 30 seconds this time. It's gonna be the same one. Can I get through the next 8 minutes? Meow. Malcolm believed in me. I'm a bad girl. Good thing you only bet double digits. So, you didn't believe in me, but you got paid for it. So, I don't understand. Oh my.
Not in stream or outside.
That was in stream. Malka threw a screaming gopher at me. He threw a screaming gopher at me.
Deserve it. Apologize.
I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I cost you. I want to say it was 10 bits. Not bits. Shells. Bits are the other things. Oh, it is a betrayal. I'm going to hell, which is not a swear.
Cat hell.
Because otter cat hell, that's so lonely.
Yeah, you know why?
Because I'm a freak of nature.
Because you're a freak of nature and there's no water there.
I'm so thirsty. Oh. Oh.
Bad girl.
Oh, bad girl. No burger, bad girl. Uh. You know, just to reference before, there are many attacks that you can get with bits, and a few you can get with points. Because it's supposed to help you make money. People pay money to disgrace you and disrupt your stream with things like caramel dancing or 6-7, which I disabled because it's annoying and I don't care and it doesn't make sense to me and I'm not the target audience. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll enable 6-7 specifically if Liz wants to play Ghost Janitors again. If you throw 6-7 at us, we have to do the 6-7 emote. In shame.
I feel bad for you.
Well, you gotta entertain the people somehow, and being a literal dancing monkey is definitely an option. Option to be a monkey in that game, but unlike Phasmo, I don't think they're all that upset about mods over there, so... Phaz is like, if you mod your game and we find out, you are banned. Like, oh, jeez. Because they made it so tied to online for events and everything that any amount of cheating screws up everything. There is no private, like I make a private room of Phaz, I'm still on the servers. If it's an event and we play together and we've modded the game somehow to make it easier for ourselves or whatever, that event is now thrown out of balance. It has leaderboards we're submitted to. Even single player, you're submitting your progress to an event leaderboard. So ultimately, the integrity of the entire game is hinged on no mods allowed, which is annoying. Like they could I had to move the mic, sorry. They could just disable leaderboards or something when modded or something. I don't know. Also, there's the whole prestige system and player ranking and all that, blah 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 blah, and their balance is tied to it. If you can call it balance, I don't think it's designed very well in that regard. If anything, I think lower rank players should have access to better gear. Learn what they're doing, and the challenge of getting higher rank, you get paid more for using cheaper crap. Crap is not a swear to me. I don't care what mommy says. And I never did on that one. The right finger? Or is it backwards? It would have to be this hand? It is that hand. Okay. I'm looking at the base one. I'm not using the base because I'm a jerk. I don't know. I'm also tempted to give her a big doofy like, aha! Me flipping you off. It's your fault. Me mad. Who letters alphabet for you? Which just seemed kind of like her energy with that sometimes, but hey. I don't want to deviate too much from the assignment. I just want to personalize it because, you know, Lizzie. Oh, this is going to work better if I just do this. That action. A little bit of that action there. A little song, I'll tell you what. Mm-hmm. I'll note it's not an angry middle finger. It's just a smug hee hee hoo hoo. So. It might be on our list long term. Laughing Paws is kind of the trademark memote, I guess. Everyone that sees it's like, oh, that's good. I'm like, I'm glad I contributed something to this world. I've never seen it in the wild without my influence, but maybe someday we will, and it'll be a real experience of, wait, I made that. Be much better than the wait, I made that of seeing the avatar of someone I made way back in the early mid 2000s, somewhere in there. Uh, Pop up on a video about how they are a freaky child predator psycho. Um, so
That was an experience.
it was an experience. That had sequels. It's several, yeah. I don't think I ever watched the last one. I was like, oh my goodness, we're done. We're done with that. Comes to the point where like, yes, I get it. They are unstable. This goes from being a show to being just, I pity you. Oh, thank fuck. My timer went off. I'm free. Okay, that time I did it. The thank fuck was the timer going off. Well, Malka got his money that time because someone bet 100 on me, screwed it up. It was solar. So there you go, Malka. Your faith was rewarded in the end. Yeah, at the moment, I believe Liz's goal was she has a bunch of open static emotes, as do I. You just get more slots for those, and you can put those on your follow list instead of just on your pay me a sub, and you can use my emotes list. So she wants to fill those.
It tastes like tacos.
Nice. I love tacos.
I mean, it tastes like spaghetti.
Sketty. Tastes like
It tastes
sketty.
like spaghetti.
Tastes like sketty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-oh. I also made most of the points when it's on the nicer side. So if you want to be mean to me, you have to give me money. If you're really mean to me, you get the golden tomato. So there is that. A golden tomato. It is a grand total ever, I believe, of 2,000. Yes, but you don't have to spend $20 at once. I believe it is accrued over time. I don't think it's restricted to one stream. But when you earn the golden tomato, you get to throw a giant tomato that breaks the screen, has your name over it, and lingers for a hot minute. Like these linger for a little bit. The tomato stays for, I want to say, 2 or 3 minutes. So we really get to soak in that you're the tomato daddy.
His wordplay.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, no, he's really good at it.
He has some damn fucking nice wordplay.
That's kind of what got me to start listening to him. Like he did that tour with the Knights of the Rhyme Table or whatever it was tour he did. That video I watched was like, okay. He's not the fastest rapper or anything. He's not like the most skill in the world, but his writing, their writing, I think it's a they.
Yeah, there.
Their writing is extremely good. We're talking about Stipendium. I don't think you can hear my music on the stream, so because I'm scared of the VOD daddies coming at me and destroying my life. And I like having VODs available so people don't have to drown in the FOMO of not seeing my streams. I know the easiest way is just don't have VODs. I'm like, okay, but I like having VODs. Or do something so it's not included in your VODs, a thing I've never wholly understood how to make work. So that's better. Let's actually see Liz's head in the emote. How about that?
That moment when your
Weed hits.
fills and you realize that
Your fills are fucked up. Uh-oh.
black. I did them in blind.
You did them in white instead of...
First time.
Ooh.
Them in white.
Wait. Oh, you did holes. You got holes. Baby's got them holes. All my hills got holes. Holes. All my hills got... Wow, all my hills got foals. That's right. I'm covered in horses. Baby horses.
Baby horses.
All my fills got holes.
All my bills got holes.
All my fills got holes. Holes. All my fills got holes. All my fills got holes. Holes. Here you go, baby. Start writing your parody.
Hi, bird.
The idea of just having this be just so derpy is so tempting. Just like that. Just like that. I just...
It's not easy.
my gremlin cackle when you spend points, by the way, is a Pixabay sound run through some filters. So yeah, no, specific. Apparently Liz likes it, which makes it even more tempting to just make her look completely stupid. I also have to make her paw snoot look like a paw snoot, which is not a dog snoot. So it's gotta go like this. Gotta cover more of the head.
Yeah, you gotta give him that big forehead.
Hey, Milo, what's the matter? I gave you food. Do you need something? Are you thirsty? I could get up and go potty and get you water, I guess. Are you a thirsty lad? Are you a lad of thirst? Do you have the thirst? Whatever. I'll go get the new water. I'll be right back. I'll get the new water. I'll do my business. It'll be great. Spritz, who thirsty? The cat? Not anymore. I gave him water. Gave cat water.
Gave cat water.
Cat needs to settle so someone sleeps in the pretty pink princess bed.
You told him about that?
You want me to tell you about the bed?
Tell them I got my kitty a pretty pink princess bed.
I think they can hear you say it.
Dad, I got my kitty a pretty pink princess bed. I'm officially a girl, Mom.
So, one of the funny arguments in my head for eventually, she'd have to be way more able-bodied, but having like a space in the back to stream from is she could be on stream with her own little avatar. I thought about making like Kazbot, like a little droid that follows me around, so I could put a little robot filter on her and just, guys, like, because I'm dumb and that's how I think about
Well,
things.
I'm sorry that I'm not able-bodied enough for you.
That's not what I said. I was not complaining that you're not able-bodied enough, baby. I'm just saying.
Sorry, my body is broken.
Me too, honey. I wish I could fix it for you. I was being sincere from the outset. Okay. What do you want me to do instead?
Bitch.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Whore?
Yeah.
You cheating hussy? Is that better?
Wow.
Is that what you want?
Wow.
I don't know what you offer me.
Holy crap, dude. I'm a cheating hussy now.
Well, I mean that's what some people would like.
That's what some people think.
Well,
that's okay. Today I had a group text with my family about the brave little toaster.
Yeah. I woke up to you watching it. You're having a lovely time. I watched it as a kid. It's been a long time, but I had a brave little toaster stint. I can't remember anything about it besides the characters appearance.
God, there are some scary scenes in that movie for kids.
And yet I remember none of those, so that's
my
interesting.
God. There's one scene where they're in a repair appliance shop, all singing about how great it is to be upgraded.
Oh.
And then there's another scene how all of them are useless in a fucking junkyard, and you can watch them get cars just sticking cars getting slammed together. And
see, I vaguely recall that.
it is not a good time. It's scary for a kid. Or the air conditioner.
Mm-hmm.
Air conditioner that goes out and like fucking like loses its shit.
Mm.
And fucking like burns itself out.
Mm.
Talking about how nobody's coming back for them because nobody cares because it's a cabin and they've all been abandoned.
I see.
Hey, you
What?
want a Cassie chibi, come to Cassie and she'll draw you a fucking chibi.
Cassie will draw you all the things in the world for the right price. Much like me, I think she's in that state of, I can't promise I'll be good at it, but I do promise I'll try.
Hey, I do good chibis.
I know, I'm just saying in general, like if they're like, I want you to draw Bill Cosby getting hit by a car, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh.
no, that's not happening.
And then they're like, here's
You
$1,000.
want pony content? Come to Cassie.
You wouldn't try for $1,000? You wouldn't try for $1,000?
No.
Really?
Bill Cosby getting hit by a car.
For $1,000?
Can he be ponied?
Sure, I don't give a fuck. I wouldn't do that to him. He doesn't deserve it. But whatever floats your boat, honey.
Can I fucked up?
Yeah, I mean, he's getting hit by a car. And you're being given $1,000 because I want to see your interpretation of Bill Cosby getting hit by a car.
Tempting.
No, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Like, that's fucking... I'd do that for one less zero, but you don't need to know that.
He's a rapist.
Can I play that one song you sent me I never remember the name of that I like?
Fertilizer.
Fertilizer! Can I just repeat Fertilizer while I draw it? I cannot put Fertilizer on very loud or it will come through the mic and I'll get copyright strict. Liz is not saying no to this face. This face was a shit post and she's like, perfect. I'm like, oh, well, uh-oh. Doesn't help that I kind of gave her like anime villain eyes. Liz to the ghost as it kills her. You thick you. Okay, I keep trying to convince her to do stupid, sexy pinup crossovers with me. Yeah, that way people will buy our stupid, sexy pinups, you see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You want in on that too?
Since when did Liz become your #1 girl?
She's not my #1 girl, because she's not a girl.
Serenade? You know what I meant? Oh, bitch.
Look, we're trying to do VTuber merch, see? Like the HoloLive. That's how the HoloLive do, right? Would you like a Gura body pillow?
Bag.
A body bag? You can put my body pillowcase on it. My wife's gonna kill me, guys. Why? Why do I deserve death?
Betray.
I'm not betraying anyone. I'm not betraying anyone. How's it betrayal? That doesn't help me. How have I betrayed you?
Betrayal!
I have not betrayed my wife. Trying to make mad bank so I can better take care of my wife.
Bank skills suck.
Yeah, they fucking do. I can't argue with that right now. I screwed up royally this month.
Maybe more than half.
Yeah. Pretty sure warm farts made more than I have in a lot of ways. Yo, a packet of Phoenix Downs? I bet those sell pretty good. Especially if we're in like the Final Fantasy 3 economy. Oh my god, early game, they don't exist. You can't buy them. Pretty sure you can at some point, but early, I remember hating that about threes. It's like, oh, if someone's dead, you got to go back to town and like use a fountain to fix it. Usually, Phoenix Downs are like mid boss fight or no. You use those when it's on the line, not when you're like, I'm on 4-1. Oh, Johnny's dead. I don't remember the character's name. I got to the point where you get an airship and then you like go inside the world to the inside world or something like that. I don't remember. I wasn't a big fan of 3. I played it on the DS. I was like, I love Final Fantasy 1 and 2. I've never gotten to play 3. Oh, it sucks. Some people really like it. I'm not one of them. It does get better, but the start is rough. It is easily the meanest Final Fantasy I've played. Like, 2 can be mean, but you can always just kind of grind it out, you know what I mean? I don't like the dirt face in practice. I think it's a little much.
Well, I have something to say about the city.
About what?
I hate myself.
Why do you hate
for
yourself?
making her so awesome that Yuri wants me to draw her over and over and over again.
Uh-huh.
Because she is a pain in my dick.
Oh, that's the last thing City wants to be to your dick.
So painful to draw.
I don't know. I don't think she's so
So
bad.
complex.
She's a little complex, but I also just kind of wing it a bit because I'm doing the anthro, so I got more room to fuck around.
Yeah, well, I don't have room to fuck around, and I drew her with a shit ton of accessories.
Yeah.
And, like, why am I complaining? I'm not complaining. I got a commission.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining about the commission. I'm complaining that my design sense is complex.
Is all well and good until you gotta draw it 62 times.
It's all well and good until I have to draw it.
Something D&D pony threat.
What?
You know the one. Only hooves.
Oh. I hate you.
Yeah, we might want to simplify those a little bit.
No!
Okay.
Well, if you ever get back into it.
Yeah, well, that's
Not my fault.
Another reason I'm trying to figure out my schedule better.
Yeah, you suck.
Well, I suck enough that I opened Google Calendar.
Well, make room for me.
I'm trying to make room for other shit too. I'm trying to make room in general for you and what you want me to do and stuff.
Yeah, only.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Gavin Jacket syndrome? Oh, because he's got all that crap on him. You did a lot of stuff with Gavin. It's like consistency is hell. Gavin is the kind of character design where if I made that knowing I'd have to draw him over and over again, I'd be like, we're just going to make...
I can't do Gavin Jacket syndrome. Or Gavin Tattoo syndrome.
Uh-huh.
Because Yuri loves City.
I know.
And Yuri loves City the way City is.
I know. You did a good job on City. I love City. I have literally drawn myself mid-coitus with City multiple times. I have
done that.
I have sucked City off. I have sucked City off underwater. I have sucked City off in a club. I have pounded City in the ass while she jizzes everywhere. I have probably done other things with City, frankly. I don't remember. There's all the orgies and shit. Like, this is why my stream's for 18 plus, by the way.
Yeah, because you like to pony fuck.
I just kind of like the fuck in general.
When's the last time you fucked Cassie Cat?
What is the last thing I did with Cassie Cat? Let me think. Well, I don't tend to draw a lot of me fucking anyone without them paying me. No, I don't tend to draw a lot of personal... That's another thing I'm trying to make time for, is more personal stuff. What? You always act like it's an affront, like I'm doing it for everyone else. I'm not.
Couples therapy on Twitch, everybody.
And how does that make you feel?
Like,
And what would you like done differently? You must communicate. I'm not arguing. I'm also not agreeing, because either one will get me in trouble.
dang.
I'm saying that feels like a trap. That feels like there's no right response besides shut the fuck up. That's what that feels like. Mm-hmm. Mr. Cotton Swab.
And stick right up my penis hole.
Oh, no, I don't want to do dowsing rod. Whatever the fuck it's called. I was referencing, like, Commander Kirk. Famous cartoon everyone super remembers, Commander Kirk. A one-off pilot on Cartoon Network that is amazingly on YouTube still. From the round that brought us Megas, the show people actually do remember from all of those pilots. But I've always remembered you, Mr. Cotton Swab. Mr. Cotton Swab. Is it time for my ear cleaning now? Mm-hmm. Ah! He's in his happy place. He's getting the shit beat out of him, and he escapes to his happy place. Somewhere known as the happy place. La 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 la. It's so dumb. Hello? Oh no! Oh fuck! Flip it off. I was too slow. I was way too slow. Damn. Well, Liz blew up a sheep. So, lamb chops, anyone? You're right. It's more of a ground beef situation, but
Oh my god.
because it's pre-cooked. What?
Yeah.
It exploded with fire. Some of it's got to be seared at the very least. You just got to scoop it off the ground and, you know, unless you have the foresight to put plates down or something. Catch as catch can, that's your dinner. Didn't expect that to be how we feed the commune, but hey. Exploding sheep. You know, dynamite you think is expensive, but here we are. Shepherd's pie. You know what? You're not entirely wrong. You're talking about me and Liz. Why are you like surprised that things are kind of fucked up?
I'm not surprised.
You're not surprised. What are you then? You're what? You don't have words for me. Well, should we ask for advice from Liz's mom?
If Liz's mom wanted to boss her around, she should have stayed alive.
I'm not asking to be bossed around. I'm just saying we should give her a call.
What, with a seance?
Yeah. It's still funny when someone else does it. That's what we're going to learn.
I don't know if it's funny if somebody else does.
That's what we're going to learn tonight. Is it still funny if someone else does it? Let's test those waters live. I make good choices. I'm a good friend. Your mom is dead. I'm funny.
A good friend. I wish my mom.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But she's not dead?
Liz doesn't know where her Ouija board went. Well, that's why we're doing a seance. We don't need the Ouija board for that. We just kind of, figure it out.
The Totoro Grow.
Yeah. Like in Bob's Burgers, the Totoro grow. Not like in Totoro. In Bob's Burgers, the Totoro grow.
I think I'm done with this first. Great.
Good.
Good.
Now give her a kiss.
Give her a kiss.
Okay, where is she? I am. Where is she? I have no shame over my hobaggery. I have wholly embraced that I'm a hoe bag. And I'm happier for it. I encourage everyone to go, am I a hoe bag? If the answer is yes, just lean into it. You'll be happier. Just that honesty with yourself goes a long way. That's how we got, am I a girl? What is you? Oopsie. I need a song where I can play a funny noise every time I say something. My favorite thing. I liked it in Rugrats with the moose. Doo, 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 doo. I like it in Hoop Jelly Kisses when he goes Hoop Jelly and you get the whoop, whoop noise. Look, it's a cat. Hi, matey. Oh, you said hi back. What's up? I said hi back. She went meow. Now she is sniffing my toes with her cold, cold nose. I did give them water. That might be why she has such a cold, wet nose. She might have been all up in that business. So, Liz, how long until Posttuber compels you to get big old gauges in your... Is it gauges or gauges?
Gauges.
Gauges. Is gauge a thing? It's just the wrong way to say gauge? Okay.
I am not done with this because I forgot the cutie mark.
Her and cutie mark. How could you forget the cutie mark? You made that. This is my second time ever drawing this possum. The first time was when I winged it and made the possum. Now I get to deal with the consequences of my own actions.
Yeah, deal with the consequences, bitch.
Well. It's the consequences of my own actions. Doesn't look quite saucy enough. That looks a little more saucy, right? Oopsie. Oh, we should do ever save. Yeah. Now, since I didn't draw her hands, we don't really know what kind of hands she has. I'm going to assume that it's a possum. She's got some claw situation going on. But also as a possum, she got that weird pank shit.
Little pink rat hands.
Little pink rat hands with claws, ladies. Because you really want the claws, ladies. Ouch. Granted, she could be like that demon in Our Fierce Differences who's like, you need a finger girl, and just takes his big old claws and snaps them off and just goes for it. What? It's kind of hot. I don't know. I thought it was kind of hot. Just like, hey, she's like, literally's got big old like 3-inch long claws. Just sticks his teeth at the end of them and just snaps them. They're flat as board. Like he's done this a few times. Like teach the rookies how to finger some. Our Fierce Differences seems like if you're in my audience, you would like Our Fierce Differences. It is on its own website. Recommend. It's pretty early on, and I have enjoyed what I've seen of it. It is a webcomic full of demons fucking. And somehow, that's not the reason that I'm interested in it. Like a weird, like, clash of cultures romance between, like, a demon and a dragon lady or something. It's kind of interesting. Interesting. I don't know. If you like what I do, you'll probably like it. Big, giant, strong demon man and, like, a little chubby dragon girl who's, like, a fifth his size. Let's be real. She's small. She come up to, like, him knee. He's big. So if you're into, like, insane size difference, there is that. But also, if you like to play with some religious trauma in your sexy shit, which if you read Thralls, you probably do. Congratulations. There's some of that in there too, and all kinds of stuff. The judgment of society fucking you up and not knowing who you are, what you want in the face of how you've been raised, and me coded shit. What's wrong, baby? Is she just not listening? She doesn't listen to anyone. She's a little cat. She wants to play and run around. She came to you the other night, though. Remember? If she's in the mood, she'll show, but she is a cat. You got to remember the studies. I told you the studies, right? They've done studies. I don't think I've told chat the studies. They've done studies on cats and come to the conclusion they absolutely do know their own names. They just ignore you. And I'm like, you needed a study for that? I knew that. They're cats. That's, yeah. They have wills of their own. They are not our little slaves. Some people think that's a bad thing. I'm like, that seems revealing, but why doesn't the animal submit to me, its rightful master? I'm like, okay. Weird. So I don't mind it so much, obviously. How's it looking, Lizzie? I'm really hungry. I ate something right before I started. Gosh. See the glasses. The glasses are. Oh, the glasses are a method. I cheat for the glasses. Don't worry about it. I don't think you can even tell on that, so I'm gonna do the same thing again, I think. Here's what we do for the glasses. Let's get like 15. It's a little big. How about a 10? I need this to be another 10.
Classes are usually done if you outline.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
And I put lenses in them, and I put it like a 45% opacity on a white with a blue strip.
Just trying to match what she had for now. Lizzie flipping birds. Lizzie flipping birds. Birds, birds, birds. Flipping all the birds. Yes, even that one. Okay, we're coming up on the point where we start to clean this up and make it look the way we want. I love when something comes on my playlist so quiet I can't even hear it. That's my favorite. Why would I listen to music if I wanted to hear music? I'll listen to low T. I'll always listen to low T. This one, I'm gonna eat his neck. We're gonna do the next one, and then I might work on something else for a bit, because I have ambitions and plans for June. Ambitions and plans for June. Should probably post the poll. But I'm pretty sure we know who wins already. It's fine. Catcher is easy to work with. Do not mind doing something for Catcher for June. Aaron has weak stream and low T. Hi, maybe. Enjoy tree. Heard it on TikTok. Okay. There we go. Oh my god, I am dying on the vine. Did anyone have concerns or thoughts regarding the upcoming stream schedule information posted on the Discord earlier? Are we looking Gucci? Is that a good plan? Because I do so good with plans, you see, but still.
Suck at plans.
I do suck at plans. I'm trying. I'm also really good at shooting way above what I should by now know is my actual limit, but the problem is my limit sucks. Genuinely. I'm kind of garbo as far as limits go.
What are these?
Your limit is emotionally more. It means that no matter what your body says, you have the willpower. I, on the other hand, do not have the willpower. I am trying. It's part of the idea of having the variety in my schedule. I'm trying to more thoroughly have the willpower.
It's funny. Gary commissioned me for city stuff all the time, right?
Yeah.
Damn, that was fast. Like, you know who I am?
Do you even know who this is?
Like, I get that it's.
You're fast. You get the commission. You are fast to your own detriment. You will get a commission and you will get out of bed to do it immediately. Even if you've been working all day and should really be laying the fuck down. Yes, like right now. If you have a task to do, you have to do it or you get very yeah. You cannot rest if you have something to do. At some point, if you get popped off, you have to learn to pace yourself. That's all.
Right.
If you pop off, you have to learn to pace yourself. That's all. Means if you get a queue, and you're like, Kazis will never have a queue, and it's like, there could come a day where you have a queue, and you have like 80 things to do, and you're like, shit, how do I do all this in one sitting? And the answer is you don't. Hi, Talus. We like this dirt in this house. I think Talus is one of Lizzie's friends.
Hello.
They've been around on a lot of our stuff lately, though. So our cross pollination is doing something.
Our cross pollination.
Yeah.
That is a way to put it.
Well, I'm dumb. Have you stopped to consider that I have a tiny brain and little bitty arms and a big head, and I just can't do it? And yes, I guess I'm a little gross, even though I really hate being called things like that. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Oh, see, somebody's got to be mean to you.
Okay,
it is the way it is.
I'm mean to me. Why can't that ever count?
Because when Cassie's mean to you, it's
okay. Not cute and funny when I mean to Cassie, though. No, it's the worst. That's
Cassie's a cute little.
a cute little precious bean that goes. Right. Cassie's a brat.
Cassie is amazing.
Yes, and
You're
a brat.
Lucky that you have her.
I am lucky that I have her, but she's still a brat. Cassie is a brat.
Cassie is not.
Cassie is talking about herself in the third person.
Cassie is talking about herself in the third person.
Why? Oh, I see. Are you becoming like the Chad?
I am the Chad.
You are the Chad. My wife is the Chad. It's the Chad.
The Chad. The Chad does not understand. Chad is sad.
So we need a Goblin Kaz, and then her and Goblin Vale can kiss, and then I can watch and be jealous. Sure, I'll watch and fap in the background. Yeah, well, I'm the wettest blanket in town, girl. So I got you covered on the wet wipes. Yes, sir. Let me clean up your mess, sir. Work on my sniveling butler impressions. Of course, sir. Yes. Oh, I thank you for your cum, sir. I will dispose of it immediately in the appropriate place. Yes, I know. Eat the rag. I know. Oh, tastes like chemicals. Yes, and cum, yes, but also the chemicals, really. Waggle eyebrows emote? I don't know how to feel. Okay, Liz, you have a critical amount of stream lag on my end. So I don't know if you're waggling eyebrows at the Kaz Goblin makeout thing, or the me in the background thing, or the
You
eating
the
cum
cum
thing,
thing.
but it came during the eating the cum thing. And
I'm very concerned about your fetishes now, Liz.
Liz, I don't want to eat a cum rag. I will do a lot of things for the bit or just because I like attention. I don't want to eat.
That.
I didn't offer to. I didn't offer to. It was a bit. It was a bit. I didn't offer to. I'm
You just nasty.
I'm gonna run an ad and get a snack.
No.
Why?
Because you don't deserve snacks.
I'm so hungry.
Why? You ate dinner.
I had the little mac and cheese thing thinking that would hold me, and no, apparently. Instead, I'm freaking starving, and I don't know why. And there's someone playing music outside as they go by on their whatever. It's very loud. It sounds like Pacific Drive, but lamer. Oh, good, it's getting louder.
Yeah.
They park right outside our window or something? I can hear their country better than I can hear my own music. And about a 6-pack and a comeback. Whatever.
You know what happens if you play a country song backwards, right?
Your dog comes back to life.
Your wife comes back, your house comes back, your truck comes back.
And you have all your beer.
Yeah, and you have all your beer.
Yeah. You unalcoholize yourself. It's always alcoholism with these songs. I mean, it's not just country. That's like pop and shit too. Like I was listening to the Randler cover of the Wait, did you hear that sound? Whatever song, you know what I'm talking about? And I remember the name of it. I'm just thinking like this dude is wasted and he's trying to convince this girl to come back to him, and all I can think is I would beat his ass if he showed up at my house like that. No. Get the fuck out. Do not make me call the cops. I hate the cops, but I'll do it if it gets rid of you. He did more than 3 or 4 to say this so. Honey, you need Alcoholics Anonymous. That's what you need. Good grief. Does alcohol help you say things that you don't have the will to say? Is that how I come out to my parents? I finally find a way to get drunk without throwing up because the fucking flavor's nasty and gives me heartburn? Because it tastes like heartburn and it triggers me to think I have heartburn and it just becomes real? Not a drinker.
God for that.
Why is that?
Drinker.
Fair enough. Have a nice day.
He didn't just drink beer. He drank whiskey.
Oh. That's bad, isn't it? It's like super alcohol. Look, I don't know. I'm not a drinker. I know Everclear is like pure vodka alcohol or whatever, and mouth signing checks it can't cash. What check did I sign now? Was this about eating the cum? I was joking about being the butler at the simpering bitch at the orgy.
Milo, come here. You want the pen? You want to bless the pen?
What did I do wrong?
Bless the pen. Come here.
Like, honeys, I'll swallow. I just don't want to eat a fucking
Serenade.
rag. I'm just saying. I don't want to eat a rag. Right? You ever stuck a wet wipe in your mouth? It ain't water. That's all I'm saying. You go and swallow some dish soap. You tell me how much you like that. That's closer to what a wet wipe is going to taste like. No matter what you put in it. But no, I could eat kind of shit. Anyway.
You know, if you're so hungry, maybe you should make dinner before you.
Well, I was late to get started streaming. So the other stuff sorted out, and I was figuring my life out. Why are you mean to me?
I mean,
Why are you being mean to me? She's being mean to me. She's saying I don't get to eat.
Oh, you get at least something done.
I'm getting this done.
Is it done?
No, but look how far it's... Wow. I'm gonna go grab like a piece of cold pizza, fuck's sake. Okay.
Fine. You have plenty of meat on your bones. You're not gonna die.
I'm wasting away. I'm only 300 pounds.
You would never live a day in my body.
No, I wouldn't live a day in your body. I've never claimed I could. I wish you didn't have to live a day in your body. Seems exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Frustrating. Painful. Seems like doctors don't give a shit, and I kind of relate a little bit more to the guy in the Grey's Anatomy episode I otherwise hate. So.
Oh really?
You know, he always said that'd be you, and I was like, I don't know if that'd be me.
It would be you. If something happened to me in a hospital,
he's so extreme. Well, at least if it happened to you in a hospital, they'd be fucking trying. That's where I'm at. Like, it feels like everyone's given up on you, and it pisses me off. Like, someone do something. How bad does it have to fucking get before someone does something? You. This is not the time for me to be like this. Because it just doesn't feel appropriate.
Are you getting tilted?
I am getting tilted. I'm actively mad about this today. For context, there is like a thumb-sized hole in my wife's skin on her leg. I think she told the doctor it's a bed sore. I don't think it's a fucking bed sore. Okay? I don't know what it is, but there's skin breakdown. No one fucking helps her. She needs better than me. That's what she needs. I'm not good at taking care of her. I can't take care of my fucking self half the time. And the state is like, no home care. I'm like, why? Because she's not making progress. She's disabled. Well, legally she's not. That's not my fault. We're trying. You guys are dragging ass. I'm a little mad. A little frustrated. Right? My wife is... She says she doesn't feel it.
I don't.
But historically, when something gets injured in that leg, where the lymphedema shit is, she gets like cellufucking-litis and almost dies. So I'm a little concerned, and there's nothing anyone will do about it until we have to drag her to an ER. And I'm just like, I'm okay. I'm gonna stop fussing over tiny pixels you won't see at emote size now. What, baby? Did you not realize I've been thinking about this? You thought I didn't care?
I think that you would focus on it.
I'm just very frustrated. It's you need care and you're not getting it, and anything that would help you get it is dragging so much ass that I'm genuinely worried what's going to happen by the time you get it. You know, you got your work back and stuff, but you're kind of getting it out of brute force and stubbornness more than well-being. You know what I mean? Like, are you working because you feel better, or are you working because fuck it, you're working?
Working because I have to work.
Exactly.
Every dime I make is helpful.
Thank you for the follow, Gara the Pangolin. I love pangolins. I love pangolins. Penguins are great. Yeah, I'm worried about her. Howdy, howdy. You don't gotta be sorry, baby. Can we get a confirmation? Like, if you're disabled, do you have to apologize for being disabled? Like, you don't have to, right? Does anyone feel like they have to without trauma being involved? I know you do, but that you shouldn't. You should not have to do that. It's not great. Probably quite bad for your
Well, I also
psyche.
grew up with a mother who said being sick was my fault.
You grew up with a mother, and that's the nicest thing I can say about her. I always have to tell the wife to stop apologizing for her illnesses. Yeah, I'm wondering if this is just a girl experience now.
Women are supposed to be strong and capable and
Women put
3 meals a day on the table, taking care of the kids.
Seems like a lot. I'm pretty proud of anyone who just doesn't jump off a bridge in our generation most of the time, so. Like, good job. You made it another day. We will survive the hellscape as one. Liz says you do not have to apologize.
This is also very.
Yes, Liz is also very nice. Good job acknowledging that you have friends. That they're nice.
That.
You don't think you have friends? Okay, Liz, you need to drive out and beat her ass. That's how you prove to someone that you're friends. She made you weed brownies.
Speaking of which, hey Liz, I love you. I have a hole in my leg.
Oh my god. I don't think you actually like me, but there's a hole in my leg. Would you make me weed brownies? Ooh woo. I don't know what it takes to convince you that someone likes you. I have no idea. I don't know how I don't think you believe I like you.
No.
Oh.
I think you put up with me because you don't want to.
What the fuck? I could bring you more brownies. This is how we make friends. I love you. You think I don't even like you? I proposed to you. We're engaged. We've been engaged for a decade because we can't afford a wedding. Or attend a wedding, but hey. Details.
Hey, can you come look at this and tell me what you think?
Yeah, just a second. I'm pinking the paws. That is not a euphemism.
What are you doing?
I'm putting pink on the paws.
Oh, you're pinking. I thought you said you're pinging, and I'm like, why? She's in the chat.
I was giving her an address to deliver all the weed to. No, the drop spot. On the Northern Pacific Drive. There we go. Brownies, how you make friends. I learned this from Harvest Moon. She has played one Harvest Moon. It was the one on the 3DS where you could like use tiles to change shape of your farm, I think. I only want to get married for tax reasons. Tax reasons are my theory on why polyamory is illegal. It just gets too complicated for the IRS if you have 6 wives.
Cowards.
But pretty. It's almost like a blossoming corn cob.
Eat bread.
I'm also thinking about corn, so I have corn on the brain. Corn yesterday. Like it. Is the rolling pin magic? Or is it the pink? Pony roll. Oh, that's fair. That makes sense. It makes sense. I was just putting it together in my little mind. I'm disgusting. Hey, remember I made you juice?
Yeah.
Sounds like something someone would do if they didn't like you.
You're gonna do. I told you no.
You're not my mom. I stole a handful of Ruffles. You have a present for me? Is it a magical spray that'll make the 2 cheesecake bites I set aside for her that she never ate good enough to eat again? Because I'm pretty sure they're probably rotten now. And yeah, I'm still thinking about it. They were good. You missed out. Those are really good. Like the weird Sakura cookies are all right. I don't mind those, but those also are keeping longer because they're not freaking cheesecake. I do like presents though. I should eat more of the Sakura cookies. It's just she's been buying my weakness and then getting mad I eat her share. Listen, we've been together for years. She has to know by now. If you put me near,
Don't eat my part of them.
if you put me near grasshoppers, they're dead. Like
No, they're mine.
You also got like, you got a whole other thing of cookies on your desk.
Huh?
Your cinnamon ones.
I
Well, then why'd you buy them?
I've been having issues with eating alone.
No, we're obsessed with grasshoppers lately. To the point we're fighting over them. Because mint chocolate is the household weakness. Especially mine. The cookie. The drink. I forgot there was a drink called a grasshopper. I'm not a drinker. She's been getting the chocolate fudge grams from Safeway instead of like the Keebler ones or the Girl Scout ones. And those are the best ones we found for price. The Walmart ones
they're too soft.
Are they too soft? I just think they're tiny and not as good.
They're tiny and they're soft.
They lack the power. The power of hoodoo. You do. Power of voodoo. They're not as good. They're fine. I'll eat them. Trust me. But they're, Walmart versus anywhere else. Fitting just a bit of the pride flag in, so anywhere you go, people know you're gay. Gay. There we go. Oh shit. The fudge mint. I don't know them as that. What do the Girl Scouts call them?
Thin mints.
Thin mints. I think Keebler calls them grasshoppers. Keebler's are a lot like Walmart's, just somehow way more expensive. But Safeways are really good. They're square. And if working at Wendy's taught me anything, it's square means good. She's on the VGen doing the VGen. Was Yuri your other order on there then, or no? That's the Cutie Mark one. Did Yuri use the VGen?
No.
No, because you don't have the thing on there yet. Dang. Let's hope you're getting reviews. Get you verified so you show up in the indexes and stuff. That's the good shit. I love VGen. VGen is pretty good. Square goes in the square hole. That's right. In the square hole. Where do your hopes and dreams go? That's right. In the square hole. Where does this giant ruffle covered in cheese go? I mean, the square hole. Ooh, another one.
I'm doing that.
No, they're delicious. I love them. Cheddar and sour cream ruffles. Just so everyone knows. Best ruffles. Up there on best chip, frankly. I love these things. My favorite since I was a kid. I also like Cool Ranch Doritos, but they don't like me. They give me tummy problems. It made my tummy hurt. Honestly, most corn things make my tummy hurt at this point. Except Juanitas. Or Julio's or whatever. They're not Julio's. What are the man version of Juanitas that they sell for some reason? They're literally the same brand of chip. Juantonio? Is that it? It's not as memorable as Juanita. In this house, we stand Juanita. And it's not just because we met those chips first. Big chips. Hi, Milo. Can I help you, son? Milo, do you need to go to bed? You've been all over me tonight. I gave you food. I gave you water. I don't know what you want, honey. What are you lacking that has you all up in my business? Do you just want attention? Your mama's right over there with a bed for you next to her and everything. She loves it when you're by her. She takes pictures and uses them as her desktop wallpaper. Hi. You're a good boy. I just don't know what you want. You silly little cat. Oh. Something moved on my screen and it really threw me off. All right. So how do we feel about the very bare bones layout right now? I could put the cave up, but it kind of gets in the way, and it's not a very good angle right now. I still need to fix that. I don't like it. There's much room for improvement, you see. Gotta color the glasses. Cannot forget to color the glasses. I think I should get back into Pacific Drive. It takes so much time when you sit to play it. You can't just sit and play it for a little bit. You gotta know you got some time. I mean, you can save whenever, but I always try to do the runs in one go, and that's easily an hour when you know what you're doing. least the way I play, because I'm a salvaging hoe. Gotta keep my supplies up. I think I just at the point, though, where I don't necessarily need to grab everything, so I have to reacclimate everything. Ugh. I remember why I quit. Oh. Good game. Sad. A thing happened in this story, and I got sad. Okay. So how is our pangolin? On board start shuffling with your pango face and little tail mace. Are you a big pango? Some kind of Pokemon? Check out that scaly skin. Pangolin for the win. You can get a rough approximation of my age by just knowing that I'm a Weeble fan. Was tapped to follow VGen, thank you. Oh, I was just asking how you doing. And then I started singing the Pangolin song from Wheel. Because I like Weeble. I liked Weeble and I got a silly little brain full of things. Let's see here. Let's do this. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. What else can I do? Oh, there's a hole there. I don't mind that on the emotes. You'll get the bruh emote problem with the mouth's color is determined by the background. In case no one's ever noticed that in all these years, which I don't think you have mostly, which is really funny. Remember, artists, you can technically get away with murder. Like analogously, not like don't actually kill a guy. That one's harder to get away with. You need careful planning and an escape route and an alibi and I don't know, a bunch of shit. I've never done it. I'm very good at getting caught for doing minor things. If I killed someone, I'd just do it in front of the police. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, there's the idiot." I didn't think this through. I don't get away with squat ever. Well, I'm glad the healthcare rant did some good. I'm real good at being angry at healthcare. I'm so good at it. Yeah, I'm so powerful at rage against the machine. I should try listening to that band. I've never done that. My musical education was weak, but I can tell you about, I don't know, K-Love. Are you interested in K-Love? American healthcare is kind of stupid. That's me being polite. Are you there like the whole time? I don't know what she's responding to anymore. Her stream lag is really bad today. Stream lag is so bad that she'd probably have a better job keeping up with our conversation today if I just screamed really loud out the window. She's kind of up the street. And we stream together on Mondays. Ooh, do you like Phasmophobia? We doing that. Anyone checked out the character update yet? Smoke signals? Yeah. Yeah, you know, we probably would. Neither of us knows smoke signals, though, so we're just gonna be like, how do I make this look like a penis? First person wins. So I started imagining a giant willy made of smoke in the sky and her, like, reacting to it like, the pause signal! I must go! Just seems on brand. Then we gotta figure out a weed leaf for her husband. But could just be rambling like shit Empire, I suppose, you know. Okay. Oh, shoot. Made a mistake. The worst kind of folly. Excuse me, I don't want a gradient. There we go. What the? Yes! Okay. Dun-dun. There we go. Excuse me. But yes, as for emotes, I am intending to open them up soon properly. Liz has been my very helpful guinea pig on this one. So I've kind of settled into like a workflow and a pricing more or less for these. I think this one's taking a while, but I also refuse to use the base because I'm a pain in the butt. Check. Fair enough. Oh, shoot. I'm not done. I'm not done. I forgot something very important. Just use a pen. It looks better. Eesh. There it goes. And then I need, well, let's just do this. Where's my displayed color? Thank you for your service. And we'll, thank you. Liz really likes pink. So I'm going to have to just redo that shine. I didn't do this in the right order. I'm a fool. I'm not a wise woman. Okay, let's see here. And developed what?
When you deliver something, do they have a chance to tell you or not whether they liked it? They liked it.
No, you use the other communication tools for that, like the chat. I believe you can send images in their chat on there. Be like vibe check, and they'll give you the answer when they see it. And they try to give you good communication tools on the vgen.co. Not that I use them as much as I probably should, but I also have everyone on Discord so I can be like, hey Liz, how much does Emily like big swords? And she can be like, she'd probably go for a big sword. And I'd be like, cool, good to know. No reason. And she'll be like, I'm sure there was no reason for that. What do you think, Lizzie? Now we just gotta wait an hour for her to catch up. I don't know why the delay's so bad for her tonight. It's very weird. She's usually pretty up to speed. Yes. Big penis. Looks good. Excellent. We have a big old flip off emote. Now for the test. How does it look from 8 miles away? Okay, how does it look on a background? Okay, now if the background was dark. You can kind of see what's up there. Should I make the outline on the hand bigger, you think? Make it stand out more? Let's do a little bit of that. Okay. It's not a lot, but a little bit. Sounds like you're trying to sell me something at that point. You don't need to live with a curved sword. I don't live with a curved sword. I thrive with one. I call my dick the scimitar. Talk to your doctor about joining the Sultan's army. We'll catch that Aladdin. We'll catch that street rat yet. Whatever's wrong with me, a lot of things. Oh, let's see here. That line's pretty good actually. Now we've more defined the big FU button here. Let's just give this a little bit more oomphy doopity doo.
You need a break.
You need a break? I'm going to be shut up for a second. She needs a break. Oh, it's so right. Yeah, I think the outline did it. Okay. Give me just a sec. I need to help my wife briefly stretch, maybe shove something in my face besides 2 chips. And then we're probably going to just go in order and do this crying one next, which is behind the chat. So you really know what I'm talking about. It'll be a fun surprise. Nailing it. Where's my fun screen? Let's do my fun screen. This button. Yeah. I'm so good at streaming. Woo! I'll be right back. Yes. Yo. Dancing? Dancing? Are we dancing? Is that what that is? Is that dancing? I should figure out some sort of particles to put in here or something. You know what I mean? Add some life to the environment instead of just the light. I love the light. Don't get me wrong. I was kind of like water dripping from the lack of the back, but I don't know how to do that. Well, I kind of know how to do that, but not how to do that in a way that's not stupid. Well, I have to do instead of particles, an individual like drop spawns or something. I don't know. She needs to move her bed. I'm gonna be quiet again. Okay, her bed is done moving. She is embarrassed by the bed because she says the bed is farty.
The bed sounds like farts.
Sounds like farts. Big long farts. Here you go. You need your computer. It's all over there. Here you go. Oop. You do anything? Yes, making her nest. Okay. There you go. Do not can do. Set it all up earlier. Plug, which means I get to crawl on the floor. Okay. Eh. Alternative of the two plugs.
Suggestion, by the way.
Uh-huh.
Makes you write.
Yeah, because you don't write enough of it. Liz is in the chat. In case you wondering what the Ryan Reynolds was about, I told her that Zone's flaking on Tuesdays because he's, quote, burnt out on the story he writes. And her response was something about microplaning the penis off. Now, I don't know what that means. I kept thinking he said microphoning his penis off.
Microplane
Yeah.
is, you know how a cheese grater has the one side with the slicing and then the one side with the grating?
Yes.
The slicing is a microplane. So it'd be tiny, thin little slices of penis.
Well, my leg's just closed. Okay. Cool. Scary. I now understand the threat. It's resisting fruit. Yeah, well.
My phone had.
Oh, shit. Really? The black headphones the ones you're after? Oh. Oh. Hanging headphones. There's two pairs.
Those and my phone and normal headphones.
Okay. You're fine. I'm just. Sorry, the new guy we got literally showed up because I was bitching about the healthcare system. I get the feeling they get it. Okay. Let's go pizza. I helped my wife get settled into bed. We should all be good for a minute. Oh. Pardon. But yes, for anyone who's not a regular, I do sometimes have to step away. Yes, I did. I told her about the solution for the RP partner. Your co-author. That's game. We're not doing game. We're doodling. There we go. I went to the wrong screen. That screen doesn't even have me on it. Where am I on that screen? That's bonk. Hello? Where am I? I'm down here. I don't know why I'm all the way down there, but I am all the way down there. Let's fix that while we're here. Okay, I fixed that screen. Now I'm back where I'm supposed to be. Okay. Yeah, it's a fun dance. State will not give her a live-in or anything like that. Oh, shoot. I was going to send you the files, Liz. I'm sorry. Have them all ready. In theory, unless we need conversions, but you seem to be pretty good at doing that on your own if I miss something, so... My eyes are not working well with me today. I genuinely thought I named something Fuda128. It's FU underscore. But what did I do? I don't tend to use that term much. Hi. Yeah. It's not my go-to. I am wholly aware it's problematic. I was like, why did I... What? No, I didn't. It was FU underscore, because it was this emote specifically. What was the other one I saw earlier? Oh, shoot. Oh, I mean, understandable. Who doesn't like a little cock? Okay, here's the deal. Here's the deal. So, I understand the actual applicable space for the term Fuda because they have both. It's basically hermaphrodite in that space. But the weebs have spread it out to apply to anything remotely trans adjacent. And then they started calling actual trans women Fudas. And then it became a problem. So I try to avoid that one. Though I know it has its time and place in theory. What was it? Oh, crying possum. No attention span, tiny brain. The internet does ruin things. I think it's more accurate to say anime fans always ruin things. R/anime always ruins things. Somehow, them and 4chan very specifically. They're the two that ruin things. The rest of us are just trying to chill. Oh my. Okay, we gotta draw a pause having a breakdown. Why is my brush so big? Right, so I was doing the big booby sheep. Remember, you can buy a poster of lanolin with giant tits on merch.com. No, merch.ketiers.com. I'm good at plugging myself. I'm so good at it. And also selling things. Let's see here. I need to draw a head somehow in the space of 10 minutes. I forgot how to do my job. I was thinking about cold pizza and ice cream. All right, so I gotta adapt this like sulking little head down to a possum adjacent shape. What's the funniest way we could do that? Snoot up? Snoot up seems pretty funny. Make the smoot just blarn. Just the whole head's like melting, right? That's the problem with the little chibi bases is once you get a weird head shape, you gotta kind of like. That's why we're not strictly using them. We're kind of Hey, I feel like they kind of swallow some personality. Emotes are a great place to put a bunch of little personality. For the record, if you're all curious about the emotes on my channel, there is a showcase in the panels now below the stream. This will probably take some tweaking, but we're getting there. This is wrong. There we go. Let's go really stupid, make so you just don't see the nose, and we just full like Cult of the Lamb it. Just okay. That's not so bad. And here we see Liz the moment she thinks about a dog in a way that makes her sad. A dog being minorly inconvenienced. This is a call out post on my twitter.com. Liz is a dog simp. She loves puppies. She will do anything for puppies. And if you are not nice to puppies, she's coming for you. Look out. Feelings of a Thursday group not playing D&D. Like, you're well covered. The type of anime tier I don't do that often, actually, so I gotta kind of play around. Ooh, that's pretty fun. Woo woo. There we go. Sad eyeballs. Make the nose look all weird and lumpy. That seems on point. That one seems pretty legible, yeah. Okay. Let's start. Oh, glad to go. Thank you for hanging out. You are welcome back anytime. Tomorrow it's Wednesday, right? JRPG day. I think we're starting Berseria. I think that's my plan. Because I gotta do a bunch of off-screen grind or like chill night grind. I don't know. I could always do the fall asleep Fridays, but probably not. Just be quietly doing crap forever. Except I think my light keeps Katie awake, so probably not. Off-screen grind for Star Ocean, but new RPG starting on Wednesday. Ooh, that'll be fun. Maybe if I can find a way to make it fun. I mean, I guess if I called it just chatting, it'd be different. Like, yeah, I'm playing that, but like if I'm just talking, if the goal of the stream is to hold a conversation while I mindlessly look for 20,000 lightning bugs, maybe that's different. I don't know. But if I do Star Ocean, it will not be the focus being the game itself next time. It's going to be either. Well, I mean, if I get the grinding on off screen, it'll be that. But I decided to stream the grinding to help me stay on point or something. We'll be gabbing. It's frankly the only way that I'll ever survive that horrendous task. It was all good until the dude was like, now I have to check every one of these firebugs. What? Then I knew Fury. Like, wait a fucking second. Oh no. But I really I need to grind out some stuff for funeral bouquets anyway. Somebody's gonna be in that area going and leaving fucking N2 no matter what. So I may as well try to do that one as a way to slide through it, since it'll respawn all the harvest points when I do. It's just kind of annoying. You know. So much of the end of the story is locked behind those little character moments. I would really like to get them. They're kind of the highlight of the whole thing for me, you know. We're there for the RPG story part. They just kind of make you work for the actual details and developments and shit. Which, you know, do what you will with that. Um Still. Amazed how late in the game they gave us Aura map. I really thought it. I mean, we had them for post game, and there was actually quite a lot of post game. To be real, there's 3 dungeons dedicated to post game, so that's technically still on the table. But I think everyone's kind of bored with it. I'm like, I should probably move on, regardless. Milo James, do you need to go to bed? Go see Mama. I don't know what you want, baby. You won't stay. Go to bed. And you'll be annoying. Go to bed. Yesterday, whatever. Food and water and everything. Gucci Gucci. What his beef is, but their cat has been placed in sleepy time. I didn't do the whiskers on the emote, but I feel like you wouldn't actually see them on the emote anyway, so thought about that. Move this down a little bit. Lots of shit we can play too. It's not just RPGs. I got to do the art thing. That's my job. Game streamer is not my job unless the income shifts wildly. I mean, I think the 2 days of explicitly streaming video games a week is plenty. I'm trying to work Twitch into my productivity more, as evidenced right now. You know. But mostly, again, because this is where the monetization is. This is where you got your subs and your engagement thingies like viewer attack and your bingos and all the fun stuff. Which I suppose can be a little overwhelming if it's not your thing. But I do need to earn a living somehow. And other things have been hard lately, so we have tried expanding in different ways, and this is part of it. Better or worse, I'm trying things. Because, I mean, especially as things go on, if things keep heading the way they are, I don't expect many people to have $40+ for a decent commission. You know? My time still is... I only have so much of it. So I gotta make something with the time I got. So I gotta try different things. Twitch has been okay. It's not great. It's like $25 a month at this rate so far, but we're trying. Considering how early on I am, that's not too bad. And it's more than I get streaming on Pixel, because Pixel has no discoverability. There's 8 people in chat. There was 9 a minute ago. Like, it keeps changing, but like it's more than my typical on Pixel of like 5 or 6 maybe. Because you can't find me on there unless I pay them money. And no one goes on Pixel to find things, you know. I keep thinking that's the issue with like artist-centric sites, you DeviantArt and shit. Most of them, no matter what they try to do, their target audience is, you know, people who are trying to get their work seen by a broader audience. And the broader audience is going to go to a specialized website. They're going to go to something like stinking Twitter or Blue Sky or Facebook or Instagram or something actual social media, you know, something where they belong instead of just a spectator feeling out of place. Unless it's like a real interest site like Fur Affinity, and even then I think most people prefer E6 these days. Not artists, but, you know, artists do not like E6. It's a pain in the ass to list. There's a lot of piracy on there. Ownership is just kind of barely a thing. They have steps you can take, but it's limited. And frankly, listing on there is a pain in the ass. Listing on E6 sucks. It takes so long. You gotta do all this what you call it. Yeah, FA is really, really annoying to use. E6 is way easier to use. The tagging system, though, is also why it's a pain in the ass to upload. Because to be a thorough tagger, I have spent 2 hours tagging a single piece on E6 just to feel like I even remotely got the stuff that I need to get. I gradually gave less of a shit and hoped the community would add tags for me. You kind of have to, or you'll be there all day. There are so many tags, and tagging everything is supremely time consuming. And also E6 is apparently pretty cozy with AI farms or something. I don't know. I've heard rumors mostly. It's like, yeah, they're going to scrape our site. I'm like, yeah, no shit. I don't know why that one would surprise people. No shit, you'd scrape E6. You know what I mean? Like, I do not think there's anything anyone does that deters AI scraping. I really don't. Like there's the tools and stuff like to glaze your pictures, I guess, but even those are limited and often overcome. Yeah, but like it's easy to aggregate and scrape. So's everything else. You know, like people act like hitting "Do not use this for AI" on DeviantArt is going to protect them from an AI scraper. No, they're going to go on fucking Google Images, put in a keyword, and database the results. Like they don't give a shit what you tagged it in some metadata. They don't care about the legality of any of it. Why would they care about the fucking metadata? It's so stupid that anyone thinks that that's going to stop them. They have your shit, and that is a problem, but they got your shit by weird, gross means, and they're going to keep getting your shit by weird, gross means. And nothing you do is going to change that, besides something that actually stops them from operating the way they do. And I don't know if E6 actually gives a shit about any of that, but ultimately there's nothing you can really do. You know? Here's an image board. Yeah, they're gonna scrape image boards. No shit. It's a bunch of JPEGs. So I don't know exactly what people are mad about with E6, but I mean that's what it is. So as long as there's AI companies, the problem is the AI companies. That's where I'm at with that. Now, mind you, I hate DeviantArt right now. The fact that everything's shutting down, they're like, yeah, but we've added, like, everything's losing money and all this other shit. And they're like, yeah, but what if we added a video generator to DeviantArt? Last I knew, I couldn't upload video to DeviantArt. Like, oh, that's good to know. Like, last I knew, DA films required, like, special permission to use. And now anyone can just put video on DeviantArt if it's AI? Are you serious? DA's got its own fucking NFT alternative. No blockchain. It's just on DA's database, you see. It you know, buy exclusive rights to the work, except you don't even buy rights. You just buy the right to say you own it or some shit. You have your name on it. It's super stupid. DA wants you to monetize shit to an extreme. The problem is that their monetization all sucks. Like, they weren't happy with selling prints. You know, prints of infinity artists, basically. They weren't happy with their overpriced prints on demand. They wanted fucking the world once Wix bought them. Wix is awful. I hate Wix. So I'm pissed at DA right now. It's where Lonely's audience is, and that's just kind of what I had to make peace with. But it sucks. And then you see people like, who cares where the audience is? You need to leave, like, Twitter or whatever. And like, yeah, I did. I shut down my Twitter. It's deactivated. And now everyone's like, oh, I guess we'll just go back to Twitter. It's where everyone is. Like, fuck. I don't want to go back to Twitter. It's all bots and Nazis. Fuck Twitter. I'm not good at gaining traction in building places. That's part of why the Golden Week stuff doing as good as it has is really nice for me. But I have a hard time building audience as well because discoverability is what it is at this point. I do okay on Newgrounds when I actually post something, but the community at Newgrounds that's actually vocal is so damn toxic that it's exhausting. So that's tough to deal with. Like I posted, it's really funny. I posted an animation loop early on in the whole animating thing, and they're like, "This should just be in the art channel." Like someone reviewed it. This should just be in the art channel, and I'm just like, okay, but in the art channel, even the most popular artists get maybe 10% of the views that I did uploading it as a video, and a GIF would be huge. So, oh, DeviantArt's issues began way before 2020. DeviantArt's issues began before Eclipse. DA's issues began when Wix bought the site. Um, it's kind of like what happens every time someone buys Tumblr. No one knows what to do with Tumblr. No one knows what Tumblr is, which is weird. I feel like Tumblr's pretty straightforward. It's social blogging basically. It's a shitpost site where you can also write serious things. I don't know. It's not that deep, Chief. It may as well be medium.com except you can do image posts. Like it's less stuffy. It's not Twitter because it's not using tiny word counts, but it is Twitter because people will still fight you over anything. Anything. Someone will read the worst possible way. Oh boy, a cat's throwing up. Oh, he's working hard. Jesus, Merlin. Oh, ew. Oh, ew. Oh, that one's huge. Oh, please don't just walk over and do it again. You. Why can't you just pick a spot? 2 days in a row. Evil to me. This fucking cat. Yeah, those aren't. It's going down the hallway doing it again. This is my life. I'm cleaning up cat puke. This is my life.
Check on, make sure.
Yeah. Let me save my. You know, this. I. That's funny. I sent it to Liz and it decided to show it as the same size twice, but one of them's like really low res. So it's just here's emote and here's really blurry emote. Hi, Horkenstein. You left the third present? You sure as shit did. Love you too. Such gifts from mother. Mother, I love you. Let me show you how much. Here's some of my insides. Don't you like what I have? Oh. Gross, nasty, and gross. Gross, gross, nasty, gross. Motherfucker puking everywhere. Icky, icky, worst part of cats. People think that it's the litter box. It's not. It can be stinky and burn your nose if you suck, but otherwise the problem is they like to throw up. God, do they like to throw up? These two goobers. Abel, you've been a saint so far. I've not a single puke from you. I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure the day will come. Oh, God, it's huge. Colonel, dead? Oh, I was drawing a whiny little possum. Now I'm a whiny little otter cat. Lou. Cool fucking. Good grief. Mamma mia. Charlie Brown quote. Okay. Oh my gosh. Oh. Okay, that was fun and super necessary. Uh. Ooh, Liz made peanut butter cookies. I like Liz's peanut butter cookies. I get the feeling not everyone would like Liz's peanut butter cookies, but they remind me very distinctly of like peanut butter fudge, if that makes sense. I don't know. I know we needed milk. Worst case, I can just go grab milk tomorrow. Big deal. Huh? What? I don't know. Grocery outlet, grab milk and meat or something. Yeah, no, Liz's. They're very different from most peanut butter cookies I have had, but they're very good. So, is that a positive review? It's up to your perspective on my word choice, I guess. I like them. I try not to say too many things about what I like, because when I say I like something, people are like, oh no. What's wrong with them? Motherfuckers. It's rude. At least it feels that way. You don't ever get to feel like that? You ever feel like he's like, I love this? Oh no. Starts avoiding it. Yeah. It's like those cheesecake bites. Aww. I'm a picky eater, so the fact that I eat most of the stuff is kind of good news. Lizzie likes to experiment a bit, I think. I've never heard of what were the shortbread with the seasoning in them? It was some kind of tea, right? Earl Grey or something? Never heard of that before. And like, yeah, I'd eat those. They weren't my favorite thing in the world, but I'm not an adventurous eater, so the fact I'd eat those is innately a victory. That's how I feel about that. I'm hard to please, so if Sarah will eat it and it's something even slightly strange, you must have done a good job. Cardamom. I don't know. I don't remember. There were a few when I'm dumb, so I might have mixed them up and forgotten which one's which. The secret is I actually really like rosemary on certain things. Like, is it Burgerville does the rosemary fries every year, or at least did for a while. Those. Oh, I love those. I can't eat them around a single other human being. So like that stinks. I'm like, yeah, but it's so good. Or the garlic. I think there might have been rosemary on the what was on the fries at Red Robin? Garlic rosemary. You know, never kiss your wife again fries. Just saying, Liz, if you're ever craving those, feel free to take me with you. I'll help you eat them. They're bottomless, right? It's fine. And I will be too by the end of that. They're so good. They're so fucking good. Bring Katie. I don't know when you want me off. You haven't eaten dinner yet. Okay, well, I could be done after this if you want. I just wanted to get some work done someday. Okay, so blah, blah. So, how long's it been? Almost 3 hours. Wow, I didn't realize. Um, yeah, I can get off whenever. Basically, I just want to get a couple things done. There's other stuff I want to do, but I could spend time with you. I could eat. God, I haven't really had dinner yet either. I just eaten bits and things. It's leftovers night. We're eating leftovers. Or whatever we can microwave. Or maybe she'll be like, I want the chicken sandwich in the air fryer. I'll be like, yes, ma'am. So there's that option. You know, I do have plans to do something with Otter Cat Pride. But also I'm doing a thing for Bungalow for Pride. I'm leading that. So we'll see what happens. Oh, rosemary shortbread around tomato jam. How's that sound to you, baby? I'm not a big tomato girl. It sounds a little adventurous for me. I'd try it to be fuck it, we'll try it, but I don't know. Tomato. I mean, hates tomato, but rosemary and tomato do seem like. Isn't rosemary something that kind of goes well in pasta? I think. Isn't that one of the Italian seasonings, kind of? Maybe. We try Liz treats no matter what. We try to be triers. I don't always succeed, but I try. Your baking is impressive, though, regardless of my shitty palate. So, just the raw variety of it. You're adventurous and it's interesting. Yeah. On the Picky Eaters Club, can't really do as much, but I can appreciate the value of it and the skill of it, practice it takes, and all that. Even if I'm like, this isn't chicken strip, because I'm deeply autistic. Oh, what's your phone going off for, baby girl? Oh, yeah, he's playing Elite Dangerous again. I still don't entirely. I've looked and I don't understand what that game is. Just looking at it, I'm like, I don't. I see. Not the vibe I got, but I would believe it. I didn't watch too long. I didn't really get it.
And then message reach out, say, hey, what is this game about? Don't forget to do her ear.
I kind of made her look like a sad dog, but at the same time, I don't think she'll mind looking a bit like a sad dog because it's Liz. Like, yeah, my other animal, the dog. I mean, this shape is half the reason. Like, I could mask the eye out a bit and do this, and that helps. More posse if we do that. Just, I really don't want the eyes to be difficult to discern what you're looking at. That look a little more possum shaped. I can always just. Oh no, we're doing that. That's perfect. It's had little possum teeth. It wasn't the plan, but it is very fun. I don't know the rate at which we'll get these done, but I am going to try and get at least some of them done here. Reasonable place. Pace. I wonder if I like move this back and just like eyes bugging out, if that would look more Does that fix the head shape any? Is that way too far? Yeah, it does fix it. Shit. Okay. Kind of a bitch to clean, but it's worth it. Yee. I'm gonna use Lizzie here as my guinea pig, and then see if I can use this as the foundation for actually having an emote slot on the VGen. Honestly, I have enough of them now. I could start setting up, but and there are some I could use at a base. Like I could use That's My Fetish as a base. Which I call Keikaku everywhere else. It's just That's My Fetish on the file name. And I guess the Discord, but usually it's just Keikaku. That's kind of what's ended up going with. That one reads pretty well small, actually. Look at that. Alright. Probably not so much as a video thing, but yeah. It scales pretty well considering. You know, if you know, the gradient was meant to be part of the lighting, but it do be good. I just have to do it on the other one too. She already added that to her thingy, and I'm like, oh shit. Don't usually do the gradient on. Well, usually is a strong word. I've done like 3 of these. There we go. Yeah, it looks perfect. Babes. Kids.
You don't pay much attention.
Oh, I'm just trying to think of if they're going to ruin it. Kate, I'm doing my best, man. You gotta be mean about it.
But I didn't. What?
Like, you don't pay much attention. Like, I'm trying.
I don't know. I mean, you and I have. That's why we work so well together, is because I make up for your.
Shortcomings.
I don't want to say shortcomings. I think you get distracted by details and you forget things.
A lot of details and a lot of things. I'm not good at them. Alright. Yeah, those are fun. I didn't want to overwhelm the emotion. Leave. Liz, do you want me to add the gradient to this one, or do you like it as it is? The middle finger. I worry it would brighten up the back too much, honestly. Yeah, I think it kills it on that one. I think it distracts. That's why the outlines kind of. Well, no, they don't really. They're kind of the same. I don't know. Whatever. We learn and we do it all the time. We develop and pause as we go, right? Export. Ping. Oh no 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 no. Oh shit. Yeah. Okay. Okay. 128. I don't remember what the default emote size is on most places. I've been going with 128 because I think that's about what Twitch uses. If you need something different, do feel free to let me know. But there's a reason I give you the full size one. Okay. Let's get these sent off to you. Baby girl, I don't know if you saw, but Bird is in Steam Vents. Okay, I haven't gotten to read it, but we're not going to go into details on anything in that channel in here. Seems rude. Even I can tell that. There you go, Lizzie. I got you 2 done today. And we have the 3 to go. But tonight, I think we're done for now. I believe I should probably feed me and my wife. It is already 11, or I'd say, maybe afterwards we could do the Faz checkout. I mean, okay. I don't know how long it's going to take to feed you is the problem. Liz, do you want to do a fuck in the morning checkout of the Faz update? Does that sound fun? We can discuss in detail elsewhere if you'd prefer. But first we have to do Din Din. It's 11 p.m. and I have not fed my poor wife. She says, fuck yeah. Okay. Fine. Maybe we'll do that then. Keep you posted on the timeline. Maybe y'all will see me in a couple hours. Who knows? Well, not all of you. Most of you will be asleep by then, but still. Oh, who do I even have hanging around right now? You people. Okay. Well, I did not get to the Pride stuff tonight, but we got 2 of the emotes done, and I think they came out pretty good. Right? So, good start. Good dent on that. I think I was thinking like $40 each for these, which about an hour and a half each on average, give or take, hour and a half. Does that seem fair, baby? Yeah. So I need to account for like actually getting the details and the exports and the send off and the approval and all that. Yeah, so it's easy with Liz, but not everyone's easy. Some people can be very picky, and some people are very wavelength. Liz and I are on a pretty good wavelength usually. We kind of get it. Sometimes you have to fight for the wavelength, and sometimes you just click with a client sort of thing. So I don't know, baby. You got any wavelength clients? Rowlet and you work really well. That's good. So yeah. I'm gonna go feed her, and if you see me streaming again in a little bit, Liz and I would be checking out the Phasmo update. And if you don't, I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll probably start Berseria, which I should probably at least download before I say that, but I haven't, so I should do that. So either way, see you later. Have a lovely evening, and spaghetti. Those who don't know, a sploosh.